Welcome to True Echo, where real strength meets hidden truth. Today's story is one of quiet power, corporate arrogance, and a woman who walked among wolves not to survive, but to reclaim what was hers. What happens when a black woman, calm, composed, and seemingly ordinary, is humiliated by a manager drunk on his own ego? What if she's not just another employee, but the CEO of the entire company? Stay with us. Because by the time this story ends, the office that feared him will remember her. It was a gray, chilled Monday morning when Angela Monroe stepped out of a modest black sedan and into the aging, two-story building that housed Branch 7 of Ellis and Grace. The rain hadn't committed yet, more of a mist than a downpour, but the air hung heavy with anticipation. Angela, 42, tall, graceful, with deep bronze skin and eyes sharp as cut glass, wore a simple navy blue pantsuit and a discreet badge labeled, Angela M., Marketing Support. Her hair was tied in a coiled bun at her neck. She looked unremarkable, on purpose. Weeks earlier, her office at headquarters had received troubling, anonymous reports about Branch 7. Words like hostile, unsafe, and entitled kept surfacing. There were no official complaints, no red flags in performance. But Angela had seen this before, rot hiding beneath polished numbers. And one note had haunted her: he treats us like property. He takes, insults, mocks. No one dares stop him. So she came alone. No entourage. No media. Just her laptop, and her instincts. Inside, the office looked like any other low-traffic branch: beige walls, flickering fluorescence, gray cubicles. But it felt tense. Too quiet. No laughter, no energy. Just people moving like shadows. The receptionist led her to a dusty corner workstation. "Welcome aboard," she said, too flat to be sincere. Angela powered up her laptop, but her real focus wasn't on reports, it was on people. Within minutes, she noticed it: the way people walked faster when someone approached. The hushed voices. The constant scanning of the room. And then, like a slap in the middle of church, he entered. Harold Beck. Mid-50s, red-faced, thinning hair slicked back as if in denial. His shirt strained against his belly, and he walked with the entitlement of someone who thought he owned the carpet he stood on. Angela clocked the entire room shift when he passed. Back straightened, eyes dropped, silence fell like a curtain. He walked by a junior staffer's desk and snatched her sandwich, with her name clearly written on the wrapper. "You weren't eating it fast enough," he said. The woman smiled, but Angela saw the fear behind it. Later, Harold swaggered by Angela's desk, unplugged her charger without a word, and muttered, "Borrowing this." Mine vanished again. She said nothing. Not yet. She logged it. Every detail. By noon, she was sure of two things. First, the anonymous reports were real. Second, the problem had a name: Harold Beck. But Angela wasn't here to confront. She was here to observe, to confirm, and, eventually, to bring accountability. But the storm came sooner than expected. Lunch hour. A cramped break room. Brown bags and tired eyes. Angela sat quietly with her container of roasted vegetables while others shuffled in. Then, right on cue, Harold entered, loud and smiling like a king in his court. "Hope someone ordered something good," he barked, grabbing a menu and theatrically ordering enough Thai food for a family of 5, pad Thai, beef curry, 2 sets of spring rolls, and a Thai iced tea. He slapped the receipt on the table. "You folks can split it. Just keep the change from whatever you had planned." No one laughed. No one objected. They just adjusted. The way you adjust when you've been stepped on long enough to limp naturally. At 2 p.m., Angela stepped into the hallway to take a quick call with legal back at HQ. When she returned, her chair was pulled out. Her laptop, her personal laptop, was gone. She scanned the room. Harold was at his desk. Using it. She approached. That's my laptop. Harold barely looked up. Mine died. Yours was just sitting there. You didn't ask. We're on the same team, right? She shut the screen and noticed the smell, burnt coffee. Liquid seeped from under the keyboard. He'd spilled it. And didn't care. You'll reimburse me, she said, quiet but firm. Harold scoffed. You left it out. That's on you. What, gonna cry about it now? Let me guess, you're one of those who sees racism in everything. Welcome to the real world. You want respect. Earn it. Then, without hesitation, pack up. You're done. The room froze. Angela gathered her things slowly. No tears. No tremble. But just before leaving, she turned and said, "You've made a grave mistake." And left. But Branch 7 knew. Something had changed. The storm was coming. And it had a name. Angela Monroe. Tuesday morning arrived like a loaded gun, tense, cold, and dangerous. Harold Beck swaggered into Branch 7 like he always did, riding the high from yesterday's victory. The office's quiet had returned, but something felt different. The silence wasn't fear, it was waiting. He clapped a junior associate on the back, made an off-color joke about someone's shoes, and dropped his take on yesterday's events like it was a punchline. She thought she could tell me what to do, he laughed. Had that look like she was going to march into HR and get me fired. Cute. But right at 9:10 a.m., the double-glass doors hissed open again. Everyone looked. Angela walked in, same face, same woman. But this time, she was dressed like a storm in heels. Charcoal gray blazer with black lapels, sharp slacks, and her hair down in waves. Her presence silenced the room, and not out of intimidation, but awe. Harold looked up, blinked in disbelief, and barked a laugh. "You've got to be kidding me," he said, too loud. "Didn't I fire you yesterday? What, back to cry in front of everyone now? Stage a little scene." Angela didn't flinch. Didn't speak. Just kept walking, scanning the room as if taking mental inventory of what she was about to change forever. Harold smirked and pointed. "Let me guess. You ran to HR, thought some sob story was gonna get me written up." He gestured at the office. "I built this branch. Trained half of you. You all really think some intern with a chip on her shoulder can scare me?" Then, from the far end of the room, a voice cut through like a scalpel. "That's enough, Mr. Beck." A man stood up, mid-40s, crisp black suit, short cropped hair, quiet authority radiating off him. "I'm Marcus Lane, General Counsel for Ellis and Grace." Harold blinked. "Legal? What's this about?" Marcus stepped forward. "I'm here to oversee the executive transition of authority at this branch. As of this morning, Branch 7 falls under the direct supervision of a newly appointed acting executive officer." He looked toward Angela. "The CEO is standing right in front of you." Angela stepped forward and removed the badge pinned to her jacket's inner lapel. The gold trim gleamed. Angela Monroe. Chief Executive Officer. Ellis and Grace. The silence in the room wasn't confusion, it was the sound of oxygen being sucked out of the walls. A pause so loud it echoed. Harold's face drained of color. He staggered back a step, half laughing. "Wait, this is a setup. You're not, this isn't." Angela finally spoke, cold and precise. "No, Mr. Beck. This isn't a setup. You did that all on your own." Marcus opened the folder in his hands. "Mr. Beck, based on your repeated violations, intimidation, unauthorized use of company property, discriminatory remarks, and abuse of authority, you are hereby terminated. Effective immediately. Security is waiting to escort you out." Harold looked around. Begging for someone, anyone, to back him up. No one moved. He sputtered. You can't just walk in here and... Angela stepped closer. I didn't just walk in. I watched. I listened. I gave you a chance. And you used that time to humiliate, to mock, to degrade. She leaned in just slightly, voice low. You thought I was powerless. That I was just another temp. You were wrong. Harold turned, eyes wide. But security was already waiting at the elevator. He hesitated, then finally moved, muttering something bitter, something no one cared to hear. The doors closed behind him. Angela turned to face the room. Let's begin again. The office remained frozen for several long seconds after the glass doors shut behind Harold Beck. No one typed. No one breathed. It was as if time had stopped to process what had just happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, the air changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the quiet, almost sacred, exhale of an office that had been holding its breath for too many years. Angela stood calmly in the center of it all, not triumphant, not boastful, just steady. She turned to Marcus Lane and gave him a quiet nod. He understood immediately. Her assistants, who had quietly arrived during the exchange, began moving through the office, handing out slim blue folders to each department lead. No one asked questions, they just accepted them with wide eyes and careful hands. These folders weren't memos. They weren't punishments. Inside were surveys, anonymous, blunt, unfiltered. Questions like: do you feel safe in this workplace? Have you ever been retaliated against for speaking up? What would you change if you could? Angela wasn't interested in spin or safe answers. She wanted truth. The kind of truth that HR departments often watered down or never saw. This wasn't for show. This was how change started. Then she did something that would stick in the minds of every single employee for years to come. She walked into the center of the floor, among them, not above them, and turned in a slow, deliberate circle. Her eyes didn't judge. They searched. They acknowledged. She looked at each person like they mattered. Then she spoke. I didn't come here to make headlines, she said softly. I came because this company, our company, can't survive if we turn a blind eye to sickness growing inside of it. She paused. For too long, people like Harold have used their titles as armor and your silence as permission. That ends now. Her voice was firm but never harsh. Steel wrapped in velvet. I didn't trust reports. I didn't want sanitized summaries or PR statements. I came to see it myself. I came to see you. She took another slow breath. And what I saw? I saw resilience. I saw people doing their best while living in fear. I saw the weight of abuse pressed into your posture. But I also saw hope. I saw you show up anyway. In the back corner, someone sniffled. A woman from accounting wiped her cheek with her sleeve. Angela didn't stop. This branch will never go back to what it was. You deserve better. And you're going to get it. There will be new leadership, chosen with your input. There will be accountability, transparency, and consequences. She reached into her coat and pulled out a sealed envelope. This is my direct line. No middlemen. No filters. If someone tries to silence you again, you come to me. She held it up so everyone could see. Because I don't just want to fix this. I want to rebuild it. Another pause. Then her tone darkened just slightly. And if anyone here, anyone, believes they can climb by stepping on others, they'll find the same door Harold walked through. Only faster. The silence that followed wasn't fearful, it was reverent. Angela let the moment linger, then stepped toward her assistant and gestured toward the conference room. Now, let's get to work. Angela Monroe didn't retreat to a top-floor office. She didn't shut the glass door and watch from behind a mahogany desk. Instead, she walked straight into the conference room at the heart of Branch 7, where, for years, fear had lived like a permanent guest, and took her seat at the long table. No fanfare. Just presence. One by one, department heads entered, shoulders stiff at first, unsure of what came next. Some looked skeptical. Others looked quietly hopeful. But they came. Angela greeted each by name, because she already knew them. Not from LinkedIn or corporate bios, but from the quiet hours she'd spent watching. Observing. Listening. As the room filled, she opened her laptop, the backup, not the coffee-soaked one Harold had destroyed, and projected a simple spreadsheet on the screen, performance data from the past 18 months. There were no pie charts. No buzzwords. Just numbers. Honest ones. She gestured toward it. This isn't about blame, she said. It's about understanding. I need to know what these numbers don't show. What they've hidden. What people were too afraid to say. A tall woman from procurement cleared her throat. We've had problems filling vacancies. Good people leave after a few weeks. Angela nodded. Why? The woman hesitated. Then, because Harold scared them off. He yelled in meetings. Took credit for their work. And when they spoke up, he punished them. Another voice spoke up, this time from IT. He told us to fake maintenance reports. Said it made the branch look more efficient. We were scared to say no. Angela didn't blink. Did you document this? A shrug. We had screenshots. Emails. But we didn't think anyone would listen. I'm listening now, she said. For the next hour, the stories flowed, not shouted, not dramatic, but steady. Each one like a crack in a dam. Misused budgets. Stolen lunches. Withheld promotions. And an atmosphere where people learned not to speak unless spoken to. Angela didn't interrupt. She took notes. Asked follow-up questions. Not as an executive checking boxes, but as a human being trying to understand how a company that prided itself on ethics had allowed a tyrant to thrive in plain sight. When the meeting ended, she looked at each of them in turn. I'm not here to fix this alone, she said. I'm here to fix it with you. But only if you're willing to speak up, not just now, but always. They nodded. Some hesitantly. Some with the fire of long-suppressed conviction. As they filed out, Angela caught the last person by the door, a quiet man from operations named Raphael. You stayed late last night, she said softly. He blinked. Yes. I saw you covering for 2 colleagues. You didn't want them to get in trouble. He looked down. They have kids. One of them's a single mom. If Harold had caught them leaving early. Angela touched his shoulder. You shouldn't have had to make that choice. But thank you for doing the right thing. He swallowed hard. No one had ever said that to him here. By noon, word had spread. Not the sensational version, just the quiet truth, the CEO was still in the building. And she was working. With them. That afternoon, Angela walked floor by floor, cube by cube. She asked names. She asked opinions. She asked what people needed to do their jobs better. Some were wary. Some whispered their answers. But they spoke. And with every voice, the silence Harold had ruled through began to crack. Wednesday morning came with a different kind of energy. The employees of Branch 7 didn't walk in with eyes lowered or headphones in. They walked in, curious. Watchful. Maybe even a little hopeful. And that hope, still cautious, began to spread like morning light. Angela was already in the building. She sat in the same corner desk she'd used as a temp, dressed in simple slacks and a button-down blouse, typing quietly, greeting those who passed with a smile. She wanted them to know, she hadn't come here to rule from a pedestal, she came to rebuild trust, brick by brick. Across the floor, small moments were blooming. A young analyst who'd previously been mocked for asking questions now openly asked a senior coworker for feedback, and got it, respectfully. Two assistants started giggling over coffee, something unheard of just days before. Laughter, tentative but real, crept back in. Angela spent the morning reviewing those anonymous surveys. Some were hard to read. I used to cry in the car before coming inside. He joked that I only got hired to check a diversity box. I stopped bringing lunch because he always took it. We warned HR. Nothing changed. But they weren't just complaints. Many included hope. If someone like her is really watching, maybe we have a chance. It already feels different. I'm staying. I almost quit. But not now. By noon, Angela had gathered a small task force, volunteers from different departments. A mix of the overlooked, the undervalued, and the unheard. These weren't managers. They were the people who'd kept Branch 7 alive under Harold's reign of fear. And now, she was putting them at the center of reform. They met in the break room, now cleared of Harold's stain, with the blinds drawn open for the first time in months. Sunlight poured in. Starting next week, Angela announced, this branch will pilot a new mentorship system. Cross-department collaboration. Anonymous reporting goes directly to me. No filtering. And every team will be part of choosing their next supervisor. The volunteers looked at one another, stunned. You mean, we vote? Someone asked. You help choose, Angela clarified. Leadership isn't just about promotions. It's about trust. No more faceless decisions from above. A younger man with dreadlocks, Daniel, raised a hand. What if the new person ends up like Harold? Angela didn't flinch. Then they'll be removed. Just as quickly. The standard is not perfection. It's accountability. Daniel nodded. Quietly impressed. As they discussed timelines and transition plans, Angela noticed something: people were leaning forward now. Engaged. Energized. The kind of thing Harold had killed. Later that day, as employees wrapped up meetings and Angela finished finalizing reports for the board, she passed the receptionist, a quiet woman named Mira. Ms. Monroe, she said suddenly, before Angela reached the door. I just wanted to say thank you. Angela paused. Mira's voice wavered. You don't know what it's like, watching people suffer every day and being too scared to say anything. And then you showed up. And you didn't yell. You just changed everything. Angela placed a hand gently on the counter. You saw it all and stayed kind. That's real strength. Mira smiled for the first time in days. You gave us our voice back. Angela nodded. Then don't ever let anyone take it again. As the elevators opened, Angela turned once more, looking across the office floor, no longer a battlefield, but a beginning. By Friday, Branch 7 no longer resembled the place Angela had walked into just 5 days earlier. The haunted silence was gone. People moved with purpose, not out of fear, but with the rhythm of something slowly coming alive again. Conversations happened in the open. Smiles appeared without permission. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. At 9 a.m. sharp, Angela called a full staff meeting in the main conference room. Not mandatory. Just open. Nearly every employee came. She stood at the head of the room, not behind the table, but beside it. No podium. No slideshow. Just her, in a soft blazer, sleeves rolled, hands resting lightly on the edge. You've all been through a lot, she began. I know that. And I also know what it means to survive in a space that was never built to protect you. The room was still. Not with tension, but reverence. I've worked in offices like this before, she continued. I've sat in break rooms, afraid to speak up. I've watched the wrong people climb while the right ones carried the weight. That's why I came. She looked around, locking eyes with those who had once flinched at her passing. And I didn't come to fix you. I came because you already had the strength. You just needed someone to see it. She took a breath. I want this to be the last branch where someone like Harold Beck gets to thrive. But more than that, I want this to be the first where change doesn't fade after headlines disappear. She opened her hand and revealed something small, Harold's old badge, now deactivated. For those asking, no, I didn't keep this as a trophy, she said with a faint smile. I kept it to remind us of what happens when we tolerate silence. She dropped it into a recycling bin. Then she reached into her pocket and held up a new card. Not a badge. A plain white card with bold black print. You matter. Always. These will be placed on every desk, she said. Not as branding. Not as fluff. As truth. As policy. A wave of emotion passed through the room. Mira, the receptionist, wiped a tear. Daniel from accounting stood taller. Raphael nodded solemnly. Then Angela said the words that cemented her legacy in Branch 7. Your dignity is not negotiable. Your work is not invisible. And your silence is no longer expected. There was no applause. Just something deeper. A shared, silent vow that the office would never go back. Angela left that afternoon, not in secret like she'd arrived, but through the front doors with her head high, handshakes at every turn, employees thanking her, not for saving them, but for believing they were worth saving. She returned to headquarters that Monday, where the board greeted her with quiet respect. They didn't need a report. They'd already seen the numbers shift, the culture ripple. One of them asked what her final recommendation was for Branch 7. Angela's reply. Empower the unheard. And never let power go unchecked again. In the quiet corridors of Branch 7, dignity returned, because one woman refused to wear her title like a crown. Angela Monroe proved that leadership isn't about being seen, it's about seeing others. Power is not given to reveal who you are. It is given to reveal who you protect. If this story moved you, if you believe in leadership with integrity and workplaces that heal, subscribe to True Echo for more stories that reveal the hidden courage within everyday heroes. Leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and spread this message, because truth deserves an echo.